Fly boys. Nigga, Bird Gang, we flying high.
Boys.
For really, man. Purple in the
Capo
sky.
status, fresh to death.
Fly.
Killer.
Holla.
Where you at? That's my dude, quarter to 8. Ha flossing. You know we about straight 7 figures, nigga. Dollars. Harlem, we back. Taliban. Yo, shit, I thought I mastered the plan. Until I heard 3 knocks. Next question I was asking a man, how much longer in the back of this van? Got my fingers all swollen from these cuffs that you clacked in my hand. Got the nerve, man, to ask for the grams. You done kicked down my door for this package of grams. Damn. Now I'm walking up these court in the stairs, and I'm thinking to myself, where's the support and the prayers? I've done sold drugs in New York for some years. The shit that I sold, niggas lost their career. And what's endorsing my fear is going upstate, motherfuckers up north for some years. When Uncle Ricky caught my first big charge, but with Cam I brought my first big car. And now the flow is tremendous. I be thinking of the days I was on the road with the rented.
Before I get into the video, like, man, you guys flooded my Instagram DMs and the comment section of my previous videos with love and support, and I appreciate that. I did get a bunch of people asking me about what happened to Emil, and honestly, after her debut album dropped, she just was forgotten about on the label. Her debut album didn't do well no matter how you cut it. They spent more money on her than what she made back. I don't know when exactly she left or got dropped from the label. I assume after 2002 or somewhere around there. I know things were weird in 2001, especially with Big Tigger asking Beanie Sigel what happened to Emil.
Now what happened with Emil?
Oh. Now, what you say?
What happened with Emil? What happened with Emil?
Man, I don't know, man.
You asking the wrong people, man.
I don't know,
late, man.
You know what I mean? She doing her right now. I know what happened with Sigel.
What happened with Sigel?
I can tell you everything that happened with Desert Storm.
But
I can't tell you about Emil, though. I was sticking to the script. Let him know, please. You know what I mean?
MOB.
Yo, who running this joint, man?
Emil even tells her side of the story in the video.
And as far as there was a lot of hate going on at the label, yes it was, or I do believe that had a lot to do with it. I mean, I also heard that it was because I got real big and shit, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, I got up to a little 135 pounds, if you want to call that big. Okay, yeah, I got there.
Oh, so they even said that because you gained some weight?
Yeah. That I gained weight, that I was real lazy and all this shit. Like, I mean, come on. All right, yes, I did gain a little weight.
Okay, how much weight did you gain?
I was like 110 pounds. It's less than that when I did cannot get it and all that. You know what I'm saying?
And then
so
you went
I gained a couple pounds. And I was eating, you know what I'm saying?
Emil wasn't, in fact, the only female artist on the rock, though. They also had acts like Nicole Ray and Samantha Ronson. Nicole Ray is a singer who was born in California but raised in Virginia. In 1998, her debut album, Make It Hot, was released and was backed by the self-titled single, Make It Hot, which peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. However, her album didn't do so well, peaking at number 42 on the Billboard 200 chart. In July of 2001, Nicole would release the first single for her planned second album, Electric Blue, but the album would eventually be shelved. She then parted from the Goldmine Inc. label she was on, which was founded by Missy Elliott, and then she jumped ship to Roc-A-Fella Records. She would guest appear on records like ODB's, aka Dirt McGirt's Welcome Home, Cameron's Family Ties, and Dipset's I Wanna Be Your Lady. In 2004, she would release the song If I Was Your Girlfriend from her scheduled Roc-A-Fella debut, but also her sophomore studio album, Love Child. With the split of Roc-A-Fella Records, the album would ultimately never come out. Now, Samantha Ronson is a DJ, singer, and songwriter from London. She would become the first rock act signed to Roc-A-Fella Records. She released 4 songs on Roc-A-Fella Records, which were Pull My Hair Out, Fool, If It's Gonna Rain, and Built This Way. And she wrote and recorded her first album, Red. However, bad timing and the split of Roc-A-Fella led to her first album never being released. Before I get even more into the video, I would first like to thank you guys for coming to see this, because you guys can be doing a million other things right now, but instead you're here with me. I appreciate that. If you guys like the content, you guys should like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. I reply to all of the comments, and I love going through them and seeing what you guys think. Also, follow my Instagram too. That would be greatly appreciated. You guys can DM me some video ideas or just show me some love. Comment down below your favorite artist or group on the rock and why, favorite project, favorite mixtape. Also, represent where you're from in the comment section below. I want to see where y'all are tuning in at. Definitely represent where you're from. Also, check out my pinned comment, because I'm going to ask what you guys want me to talk about in the last part, which is part 4. Part 4 will be about the years 2005 and beyond, pretty much. I will say that I am going to mainly talk about the split of Roc-A-Fella and try to cover as many angles as possible. If I talk about all the albums from that era, like, that would just eat up too much time. But the split is what I'm mainly going to talk about, and a little bit of the Roc Nation era too. Trust me, I've already written a mini script for the last episode, and boy, like, it's going to be wild. Without further ado, I give you the documentary of Roc-A-Fella, Part 3, Diamonds Are Forever. The first album to release on the Roc in 2003 was Freeway's Philadelphia Freeway. I'm going to say this because I don't care what no one says. This is one of my favorite albums off of Roc-A-Fella. From top to bottom, this album is fire. I've seen people in the past talking bad on Freeway, calling him whack, but I don't know what they on, because he can really spit. I found this old clip of Freeway that he posted on his Instagram a while ago, and I'm just gonna play it for you guys.
I've been in and out the bench, staying home, hopped in and out the bench, falling off your block, wonder about my end, stop, worry about yourself, when they find you like your friend, shot, popped in the abdomen, that's what they get for tattle, that will make you better, the person in stash was running to feed their family, that can't stand cops, I don't care if you mad at me, snitches, just as bad as them, catch them and
Also, back in the day, were you a Too Raw for the Streets guy, or were you a Smack DVD guy, or both? Or heck, maybe even another DVD type of guy? Let me know in the comment section below. But the album Philadelphia Freeway was led by the single What We Do, which was released in September of 2002. The song reached number 97 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and also featured Beanie Sigel and Jay-Z. I really loved the video for the song with its references to the show The Wire, which to me is probably my favorite show of all time, and to me the best show of all time. And I've always wanted to do a video on that show because, man, like, I just love that show so much. But the second single for the album was the song Alright, and it's actually a remix of Alan Anthony's debut single. But remember, Alan Anthony was the member of Chris Young that stayed on The Roc. Freeway's album would then release in late February of 2003, and the third single that emerged from the album was Flip Side. In Just Blaze's words, Flip Side is a derivative of the song Rock the Mic. Jay-Z wanted Beyonce to do an R&B version of Rock the Mic, so Just Blaze flipped the beat and did an R&B version of it. Beyonce's version of Rock the Mic never got finished, so Freeway got his hands on the switch up at the end of the beat of the original song that Jay-Z was going to rhyme to, and did this song called Make the Cake. Just Blaze would do the beat over, and in an interview, he said Oshkino was originally on Flip Side and got yanked off. It was Freeway doing 2 verses and then Oshkino on the last verse, but we put Petey Crack on the second verse in the introduction, and the rest was history. Flip Side would have been Freeway's first single, but it didn't exist in its current form until after they decided to shoot the video for Alright. It existed as Make the Cake, and it was cool, but right before we shot the video for Alright, I made Flip Side from Make the Cake. Then it was like, yo, this is crazy, but it's too late. We're already in the process with this other record. The second album to be released off of The Roc in 2003 was Diplomatic Immunity, which released in March of that year. It was Dipset's debut album, which peaked at number 8 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling 92,000 copies in its first week. I know I would just talk about how Freeway's debut album is one of my favorite albums on the rock, which it still is, but this album is like my absolute favorite. I know that Blueprint is up there and all that, but this Dipset album, top to bottom, bruh, man, like this album is just, and it's also a double disc, and it's also a certified classic. Of course, this album spawned songs like I Really Mean It, Ground Zero, and Bout It Part 3, but the song that stands out from this album is indeed Dipset Anthem. The beat for the song was made by Arsonist from the Heatmakers, and Arsonist really got into producing beats when Thrilla, the other member of the Heatmakers, bought an MPC and lent it to Arsonist. While Thrilla was gone, Arsonist would make 2 beats and then he would run into music industry veteran Todd Terry. Todd would then request more beats, but Arsonist said he didn't have his own equipment to work with. So 3 days later, Terry sent him $20,000 worth of equipment to Arsonist's house to get him started. It's crazy because the song Dipset Anthem is really a one of one. And years later, Arsonist will be asked to make the beat again and he just simply couldn't. It's just one of them things where all the stars happen to align. If you want to know more about Dipset, then I'm going to suggest you check out my video I did on them a while back. I'll put a link in the description. The last song that I want to talk about is I Love You. And there was actually some controversy behind the song due to Juelz on the original version of the song saying, I worship the late prophet, the great Muhammad, Amir Atta, for his courage behind the wheel of the plane. Reminds me of when I was dealing the cane. Muhammad Amir Atta was a 9/11 hijacker. So of course, this definitely was called out. But Juelz defended the lyric by saying that he was only praising the courage of Atta and not his actions. By the time the album was released, the lyrics and the beat had been replaced. A month after Diplomatic Immunity released, Jay-Z released Blueprint 2.1. It was a compressed version of the Blueprint 2 because many, including me, thought the original album had a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of filler. I might get some hate for saying that, but if you look at a lot of people's list of when they rank Jay-Z's album, Blueprint 2 is almost always at the bottom or freaking near the bottom. But if you look at it, then if this not true, then why did Jay-Z double back and release this? But anyway, the project contained 3 new songs, which were Stop, La La La, and Beware Remix. The following month in May, we have the infamous signing of Dirt McGirt, aka ODB, who signed to Roc-A-Fella Records. There was a big press conference for the announcement, and it was just wild. Mariah Carey was there. I think that one of the reporters in the crowd said something like, do you realize that Damon Dash is gonna screw you? Like, Dame... First off, that's just funny. But Dame gave ODB a rock chain, which I'll talk about all the rock chains at the end of this episode, and there were just many more. You guys can find clips online, and it's sad because ODB's time at the Rock was so short, especially due to him passing in November of the next year in 2004. Definitely had to send out an RIP to ODB. The next release on the Rock didn't happen until August of that year, when State Property released The Chain Gang Volume 2. And it sucks that a big part of this album can't be streamed on streaming services, at least Spotify for sure. This is State Property's final studio album as we know today, and it sold 69,000 copies in its first week and peaked at number 6 on the Billboard 200 chart. What's interesting about this album that I didn't know is that the song with the Young Guns called Can't Stop Won't Stop was later nominated at the Grammys and lost to Shake It Tail Feather by Nelly, Diddy, and Murphy Lee. Also, Can't Stop Won't Stop reached number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, so it was really a hit. But as I said earlier, this ended up being the last State Property album. As I said in the last episode, Beanie Sigel around this time was going through a lot of legal trouble with incidents like in January of 2003, Beanie was arrested for allegedly punching a 53-year-old man in the face, which would fracture his eye socket. In July of 2003, Beanie turned himself into Philadelphia police and was charged with attempted murder after allegedly firing 6 shots from a 9mm handgun at a club door, which would injure 2 people. He was also charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, and possession of a criminal instrument. Yeah, Beanie Sigel was in some deep trouble. And in 2004, Beanie was sentenced to a year in federal prison in Philadelphia on a gun-possession charge, stemming from a traffic stop where Beanie jumped from his car and ran and allegedly tossed away a loaded gun. Beanie's relationship with state property went sour while he was in jail. More on the fallout of state property in the last episode. Less than a week later, after the Chain Gang album, Juelz would drop his debut album From Me to You, as it peaked at number 8 on the Billboard 200 charts, selling 74,000 copies in its first week. As many already know, Juelz is a member of Dipset, and he was the young gun of the group. He was the prince and destined to be the king, and he had all the tools to be the star. Just to see what I mean, here's a clip of Juelz freestyling back in 1999. He was like 16 or 17 in this video.
Can't stop the copper topper when I stop, drop, and pop ya. Right. Peel off in the drop with the top dropped and watch ya. Woo. Body shaking, body aching. Get out the car, hit him again, cause he probably faking. You gotta make sure you stay raw, whether you living out here or behind the state walls. And I love it when y'all say the rich get richer. Right. All that mean to me is that the clips get bigger. Know what it is? Hate to see me stroking your whiz. Come in the house, I'm on the couch, holding your kids. Got niggas running in coke spot, shoddy pumping, and then pop my front and they gon' body something. Smoke the bomb till I hear the smoke alarm. Fuck you cops, y'all niggas can't hold the dawn. Yeah, that's just like
Juelz really had that potential, but unfortunately, the album didn't receive critical acclaim throughout the industry. The album was led by one single, which was Dipset Santana's Town, which is absolutely, fire, pure fire. That beat is insane. And that song was actually nominated for Best Rap Performance by a duo or group at the Grammys in 2004. A couple months after this album, Jay-Z released what at the time was marketed as his last album, which was the Black Album. They even made a film about it calling it Fade to Black, which is definitely a great watch. I saw it for the first time in full this past winter break when I was on a break from college. And yo, it's just great. Just go watch it, go peep it out. As some already know, Jay-Z always had this thing with contemplating retirement, and it's not a big secret. He's talked about it, and even Dame Dash, along with others, have openly talked about how every album could have been Jay-Z's last, but this time, it really was built up to be his real retirement. We all know now that Jay-Z came back out of retirement, but at the time, it must have most definitely seemed real at the moment. Here's a clip of Jay talking about retirement.
Glad to have you here. It's an honor to have you here. You're retiring. Two words. I never thought I'd put Jay-Z and you're retiring in the same sentence. I got to get to the question everyone wants to know: why?
I'm killing that hat. You know, like I thought my first album was gonna be my one and only. You know what I'm saying? But the business, you know, we moved Roc-A-Fella from Priority to Def Jam, so you know I had a contract to fulfill. You know, so every album it was like that, like, you know, this could be the last, this could be the last. And then I got to a point where I was making like an album a year, every year since '96. So I was like, what more can I say as a solo artist? I just don't want to get to the point where I'm just going through the motions. You know what I'm saying?
Where you're making albums just for the sake of making albums.
On a side note, earlier in 2003, in May, actually the movie Death of a Dynasty came out, and honestly this movie was pretty much made as a joke about the fall of Roc-A-Fella Records and the beef with Jay-Z and Dame Dash. But the funny thing about the movie is that most of the stuff in the movie became true, but we'll get into that in the last episode. The first single for the album was Change Clothes, which featured Rell and was produced by the Neptunes, which released over a week before the album was released. This song is an ode to dressing better and losing the throwback jerseys that was on fire at the time. Jay was really growing as a person and was starting to dress more professional, suits and things of that nature. In regard to the recording process for the song, Jay said this: "I look at tracks like a puzzle, you know, almost like that Matrix scene. I look at it and the first thing I do is to listen to it. I say, what does the track make me feel? Change Clothes made me feel like it was a good time, like a groove. Then after that, I figure out what I'ma flow to on the track, whether it's going to be the snare or the hi-hat. I figure out what part of the song I'm going to rhyme to, and then I start from there. And then I rhyme to every little part of the song. I try to catch everything." The second single for the album was Dirt Off Your Shoulder, and it was produced by Timbaland. In regards to the track, Jay-Z came out and said, "It was some weird saying that I came up with. No idea where it came from. I think when Tim played the track early on, it had a brushing sound in it. I started messing with lyrics and brushing off haters. It just evolved one night in Miami. Same with the best rapper at Live Statement. It had gotten to the point where Biggie and Pac were such gods in hip-hop, you weren't supposed to want to be better than them. It was time to address that. It was a respectful way of saying, I'm the best." The last single for the album was 99 Problems, and it was produced by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin in an interview gathered some insight behind the track by saying, "Jay didn't have any lyrics in place. I played him the track and he loved it. I told him this idea that Chris Rock had about 99 Problems. He said that there's this Ice-T song called 99 Problems, and the hook is really great, and there's probably an interesting song to be made with that hook. So talk to Jay about that." Jay actually wrote the first verse to the song in 20 minutes. Each verse in the song discusses a different type of, so if y'all know the hook of the song, do you know what I'm talking about? Verse 1 opens up with Jay-Z's critique of the incorrect critiques given to him by music critics and their failure to see his true genius. The second verse, Jay actually wrote down according to Rick Rubin, and the second verse is about Jay's run-in with the police and why the police would harass him because he's black and because his hat's real low. The third verse is actually basically about a dude being soft and not going to do anything to Jay-Z. The film Fade to Black, though, would come out in November of 2004, and it revolves around the making of the Black album and Jay's sold-out 2003 performance at Madison Square Garden. There are so many highlights in this film. A few things besides the performance, which was filled with many guests that all did their thing, by the way. We have Timbaland making the beat to Dirt Off Your Shoulders, the making of 99 Problems, and Kanye previewing different beats to Jay-Z. Jay's reaction to when Kanye dropped that beat for Dope Man is priceless. And when Kanye played him Lucifer, that was just crazy. The last album by an artist to be released on the Roc in 2003 was Memphis Bleek's Made, and it managed to peak at number 35 on the Billboard 200 chart, although it did manage to go gold in the future. The album was backed by the singles Everything's a Go with Jay-Z and Round Here with T.I. and Trick Daddy. Bleek would go on to explain that the label tried to push the Everything is a Go single as the first single, but Bleek was adamant that Round Here would be more successful. He ended up being right, and in the interview, Bleek said they didn't even want to make it the single. They tried to push Everything's a Go. Everything's a Go ain't work. Jay we gotta go. You just pick a song and we gotta go with it. I said, let's go Around Here. He you sure? I'm like, trust me. 2004, in my opinion, is the last year of the real prime of Roc-A-Fella. I felt like by the end of this year, the Roc had truly ran its course and just wasn't the same, and I'll explain that later. The first person to drop in 2004 from the Roc was Kanye West with The College Dropout in February of 2004. In the second episode of this series, I really got into the backstory of Kanye, but it was mainly about him being a producer. But those who know Kanye would know that Kanye is both a producer and rapper. But back in the day, Kanye was very, and when I say very, very overlooked, even by his peers. I mean, this video is of Kanye rapping his heart out in the studio before The College Dropout. And Kanye would say people didn't really care about his raps, but only really wanted him for his beats. Kanye was a successful producer at this time. I mean, like, he had gold and platinum records, but he still really wanted to rap. The thing about Kanye is that during this time in hip hop, it was all about that gangster image and rappers being hard and street dudes. But Kanye wasn't that. Kanye was actively searching for a record deal, and he would get denied multiple times, like the story I told in the last episode. But the final straw was when Capitol Records pulled out of a deal with Kanye, and then Dame Dash came in and finally signed Kanye to Roc-A-Fella because he didn't want Kanye to go nowhere else. In an interview, Dame said, "I personally signed Kanye, and I want to take credit for that because I felt good that I believed in him and saw his vision. What I didn't see was how big his vision was and how he was going to attack it himself. He's like me and Jay put into one. He's a businessman, he's an artist, and he's a producer. On a bigger level, he's positive." It's kind of sad that it took all this to get Kanye signed, and it almost took him leaving to get a deal. And it's probably because they didn't want to let go one of their best producers, even though I think that Kanye said that he wasn't even really signed to The Roc. He just happened to make a whole bunch of beats for them. I really want to touch more on this topic that I'm about to talk about in the next episode, but Dame was really feeling the pressure of what was going to happen with Jay-Z retiring. He needed some new talent, and that's why he was trying to push Cameron. He signed ODB, tried to sign Twista, was trying to get Beanie Siegel, push Beanie Siegel, all that. But here's some clips of Kanye West pre-college dropout, rapping in the studio in 2002. He was really spitting, and it's just crazy that nobody saw the talent until Kanye forced their hand.
While you in that hats back and try to sell work and don't get shit from them packs back, and try to rap and studios don't give you your dats back, and try to get published and all you get is your ass capped, and that's that. I go to Jacob with 25 down, you go with 2,500. I got 11 plaques on my walls right now. You got your first gold single. Damn, nigga. Wow. I just bought my mom a new car and a house, and that's a lot to say for a college dropout. I drove to New York with $10 to my name and brought back a couple platinum plaques on the plane and brought back that soul shit that changed the game. And had a little beef that had the aim, the stain, the steel. Got lyrics in my heart I can't restrain. They real, man. I swear to God, I wish I had a dollar bill for every time a nigga told me stick to the beast. I could've ate a cheesecake at least 6 times a week. I could've killed these niggas on that lyrical shit. Mayonnaise color Benz, I push miracle whips.
The first single for the college dropout was Through the Wire, and it released in September of 2003. In October of 2003, literally 2 weeks after he signed his deal, Kanye crashed his car and fractured his jaw. Here's a clip going more in depth with what happened.
Kanye was in the hospital for a while, and his face was all messed up. He had to get his jaw rewired.
The accident was like one of those life-changing events.
The dream could have been over that night. Could have died, man.
I think that the accident made Kanye appreciate life, but more so opportunity.
He waited a day and got back to working.
In his hospital bed, I mean, he was thinking of beats, thinking of raps, thinking of ways to be successful.
As soon as he gets out of the hospital, he goes check himself up in the W Hotel and had a studio in his hotel room.
He was just working on music, having different artists come through, knocking out joints.
Literally right out the hospital, Kanye started recording, and he would end up making Through the Wire. There's actually different versions of the song, and a lot of people think that the version that we have now on the album is actually him rapping with his mouth wired shut. But in actuality, the song wasn't actually completely redone. There is actually the wired shut version and the one that he recorded afterwards, and he layered the two on top of each other and used the non-wired shut version to help with some parts where the pronunciation was off. Another thing about the song is that Kanye removed the line from the original version where he said that he was in the same hospital that Biggie and Tupac died, but that's false. Pac wasn't in the same hospital, and only Biggie was. The next single was Slow Jams, and it released in December of 2003, and it was a smash hit for Kanye. It would peak at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and stayed on the charts for 22 weeks, and the song ended up being nominated for a Grammy in 2005 for Best Rap Song Collaboration. Into how the song came about, Twista said, when Kanye played it back to me with Jamie Foxx on it, I was like, that's phenomenal. But what took it to the next level was when Jay-Z was like, what's up with that song that you and Kanye got? That Slow Jams track. I was like, yeah, he asked me to get on it. He said, I think that that's a good look. That should come out as the first single for both of y'all. So Jay-Z was actually the one that put Slow Jams being a single into effect. The College Dropout was released in February of 2004, where it peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, selling 441,000 copies, which upon doing my research, this is only 20,000 copies less of what Jay-Z sold first week for the Black Album, which is something to me that's actually pretty crazy. I didn't even know that. As we all know today, Kanye would go on to be a megastar after this album, but that's a story for another day. In the same month of February, the Young Guns will release their debut album, which was Tough Love, and it peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The Young Guns were still feeling the success of Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and on the album, they dropped a remix with Chingy. They also released the single No Better Love with singer Rell, and a bunch of people have been asking me about what happened to Rell, so I gave you a quick little backstory. Rell is a singer from South Carolina who signed to The Roc in 1997 and got his big break in 1998 by appearing in The Streets Is Watching and contributing to the song Love for Free. His debut album will be shelved due to the failed charting of his album singles. In 2001, Rell began to rework on his debut album, and it was supposed to come out in 2002, but it would be shelved again. Up to this point in the story, in 2004, Rell began to work on a new project which was called Long Time Coming. The next album to come out after the Young Guns was Unfinished Business with Jay-Z and R. Kelly. And after Jay and R. Kelly reconnected at the Fade to Black show, a decision was made for them to continue the work of Best of Both Worlds and the use of the leftover songs that they had from those sessions. Here is a clip of Jay-Z talking about the album and his rumored Def Jam presidency.
So, right off the bat, I gotta ask you, since you're here to talk about your new album with R. Kelly, does this mean you're officially out of retirement?
No. What happened was, I did the Garden thing last year, like to kick off the whole farewell tour, and the response of it was so crazy that we put out a tour. And when you put out a tour, we was gonna put out 2 new records and put out the original album, but we made like 11 new records in 4 days.
Man.
But this is not. This was just unfinished business.
Unfinished business. But you know what? That's what you are. You're a man of the people. I mean, we know you're retired and all, but you got to do what you got to do when you tour, with the album, with everything else.
Once we seen that, that's what the people really wanted. We had to put it together.
That's why he did it for y'all. For y'all. Well, now listen, we've been hearing around here too. Some buzz has been going around about maybe you becoming the president of Def Jam. Do you think
President
you want to
Carter, huh?
I like that. Vote or die, President Carter.
Yeah. Nothing's signed or official, but there's a lot of different things in there, and I'm really appreciative of the respect level that they showing me out there. So it's good. We'll see what happens.
People felt like the first album was uninspired and was the worst effort from both artists. You also have to realize too that despite the scandal R. Kelly was going through, literally a year later in 2003, he dropped Chocolate Factory with the Ignition remix and Step in the Name of Love. Chocolate Factory literally went platinum in 3 weeks. This new record Jay-Z and R. Kelly was working on wasn't plagued by the problems of the first. And the video for their first single, Big Chips, was released prior to the album's release. The single would peak at number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The album was released in October of 2004 and peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling 215,000 copies in its first week. R. Kelly and Jay-Z toured on the back of the release with a tour titled Best of Both Worlds Tour, and it ended in a disaster. In September of 2004, Jay-Z and R. Kelly were supposed to have a concert in Illinois, and it was the first show of the tour. R. Kelly complained that Jay-Z's crew sabotaged his performance by messing with the lights to ruin his show. The next day, R. Kelly is 2 hours late to their planned show. After that, for the next couple of weeks, everything seemed like it was doing good. And then in mid-October, Jay-Z left the show early due to a family emergency. He would then later be found at Usher's birthday party that same night. Oh man, some of this stuff you cannot make up. But less than a week later, R. Kelly cut a show short, and it's alleged that R. Kelly assaulted a lighting technician on the show, but no charges were pressed. After this, shows in Hartford, Connecticut and Milwaukee, Wisconsin were canceled. Finally, on October 28th, we have the infamous Madison Square Garden incident. Prior to the show, allegedly, R. Kelly gets a call and alludes to someone potentially wanting to take his life. While R. Kelly was performing, he told the audience that he thought that he saw some people flash some guns at him. R. Kelly would go to his dressing room and Jay-Z will go on stage and say that there was indeed no guns in the crowd. R. Kelly would try to come back on stage, and then Jay-Z's longtime friend I don't know about allegedly, but pepper sprayed R. Kelly in the face. R. Kelly will be taken to the hospital while Jay-Z had a monster night, bringing out Mary J. Blige, Usher, and T.I. The day after the incident, Jay and R. Kelly would call into Angie Martinez's show and tell their sides of the story. In November, R. Kelly would sue Jay-Z for $75 million, and then months later, Jay would countersue for $10 million. Jay and R. Kelly would later settle out of court for an undisclosed amount. Here's a clip of Jay talking about the problems with R. Kelly.
So, right off the top, a lot is going on. Jay-Z, R. Kelly, the concert went down. R. Kelly walked off the stage. Now, if you live in New York, we heard you on the radio with Angie Martinez and all that, but a lot of people don't know exactly what went down. So from your mouth, just tell us what happened.
I really don't know what went down. You know what I'm saying? We had a lot of different things that happened on the tour. You know, we missed a lot of different dates. You know what I'm saying? That became frustrating to me because, you know, I mean, people pay their hard-earned money and they wait 30 days and on the 31st date and there's a tour canceled and my name is on that. So people are like, them, you know, they're canceling tours and they're doing this and they're walking off stage. Then at the Garden, it really just reached the all-time point where it could be dangerous because, you know, when people start saying they see guns and different things like that, and there's 20,000 people in the building. Like, imagine if people would have panicked and they start rioting and then people got trampled and different things like that. And, you know, that wouldn't hold well in my conscience, so I couldn't do that no more. That was the end of that for me.
Jay would then go on to release the collaborative album with Linkin Park called Collision Course. MTV had originally planned on matching up only 1 or 2 songs, but the project was eventually expanded to a 6-song album. The production on the album was mostly handled by Mike Shinoda and Jay-Z. The album spawned one single, Numb Encore, which won Best Rap Song Collaboration at the 48th Grammy Awards. The album peaked at number 1 on the US Billboard 200 chart, selling 368,000 copies in its first week. Jay-Z and Mike held a mutual respect for one another, and even though it was designed as a mashup album, there are parts of each other's works that were re-recorded altogether to make the project sound just right. The last album to be released in 2004 was Cameron's Purple Haze. The album peaked at number 20 on the Billboard 200 charts with 120,000 copies sold in the first week. There are a couple songs that I want to talk about on this album. Let's first discuss the song Killer Cam, and fun fact, it was the first song to be broke down on the site Genius. Actually, according to Pitchfork, Purple Haze is actually the album that launched 1,000 rap blogs. The song is named after Cam's longtime nickname Killer Cam from his Children of the Corn days, which was a group that was made by Big L, R.I.P. Big L, and consisted of Cameron's cousin Bloodshed, R.I.P. to Bloodshed too, Mace, Cam himself, and Herb McGruff. The next track I want to talk about on the album is the song Down and Out, which was produced by Kanye and Brian All Day Miller. And it's funny because Kanye has said that this is his favorite beat that he didn't really do. Cam has said that Down and Out came about when Kanye was in the studio with him playing beats, and Cam did his verse, but Kanye had an idea for the chorus. Cam knew Kanye really wanted to be an artist, so Cam let Kanye rock out. Cam had seen Kanye in the studio rapping 45 minutes straight over his beats, and Cam began to realize that he could really spit and knew how rare it was for a producer to not only rap, but to rap good. Purple Haze, though, prior to release, was actually delayed multiple times, And there were rumors that Cameron wasn't happy with the promotion of his album Purple Haze. I mean, his first album on the Rock went #2 and sold 226,000 copies in his first week and went on to be platinum. And then 2 years later, Cam drops Purple Haze, and then he peaked at #20 on the Billboard 200 charts with 123,000 copies sold in the first week. It had only been 2 years, and Cam was still hot because Come Home With Me went platinum, and then the Dipset album went gold by this time. So I don't think that it was a matter of Cam cooling off because he was still hot, at least from an outside perspective. Less than a week after the release of Purple Haze though, the final 50% ownership stake Dame J and Biggs had in Roc-A-Fella was sold to Island Def Jam Music Group in December of 2004. Lyor Cohen was the president of Island Def Jam and a big mentor to Jay-Z, but he left Island Def Jam to go run Warner Music Group, which caused Island Def Jam to replace him with L.A. Reid, who got into it with the president of Def Jam, who at the time was Kevin Liles. Kevin Liles would leave Def Jam to join Lyor Cohen at Warner, which caused an empty president spot at Def Jam. This position was offered to Jay, in addition to a clause that granted Jay to get his masters back for his previous recordings. The only thing in Jay's possession that he doesn't completely 100% own is Reasonable Doubt, because Dame and Biggs refused to give up their share. Jay tried to get it and let Dame and Biggs keep Roc-A-Fella, but Dame at first was okay with it. But Biggs said no, and Dame changed his mind. Before I close this episode out, I want to get into the history of the Roc-A-Fella chain. It was a huge honor to receive a Roc-A-Fella chain, and everybody got theirs for different reasons. It's believed, besides Jay obviously and Dame and Biggs, Bleek is one of the first to get a Roc-A-Fella chain because he was one of the first artists to sign to the Rock. According to Wayno, a former Roc-A-Fella employee, he said that Freeway got his chain after the infamous Hot 97 freestyle in 2001. ODB got his at the press conference that we talked about earlier. Young Chris got his around when Jay-Z was working on the Blueprint 2. Neef got his around the Second State Property album, and Kanye got his when he was performing in Chicago. This was around the time that he signed and was before the college dropout. A cool little side story is that Beanie Sigel actually saved Kanye from getting robbed and his chain being stolen. The story goes that Kanye was at a diner, and then a couple of strangers had sat down with him and his friends while they were eating. Kanye will put out a call to Beans, who came to the diner and muscled the potential robbers away. In an interview, Beanie said he felt threatened. I let the potential robbers know nothing was going down, not while I was there. Nothing was going to happen to Kanye. Kanye wasn't being paranoid. They had chairs put up to his table while he was eating with his friends, and they wasn't eating, it was real. Their plates of food was cold. They ate only a couple bites. It was like a wait off, like hurry up, and would you come out here? It was going down. And I asked Kanye, yo, do you know this guy right here? He was like, nah. And I just pulled the chair from under him. And Kanye had his jewelry tucked in on him. And I was like, take a chain out. That was like a badge, that Roc-A-Fella chain. The jackers reacted to me as they should and took a little more than a few steps back. That's some real stuff though, like yo, like I'm not even gonna lie, like Beanie was super real for that. But yeah, those were just a couple examples of people who got their chains and why. There's quite a few people that got chains. All in all, this will conclude this episode in the series. Tell me what you guys think so far and what you guys want me to talk about in the final episode, because trust me, I will talk about the behind the scenes stuff. Like for instance, like the infamous incident where Dame Dash went off on that people in the meeting about the Black album. Like that's just one example, because people in this episode will probably say, oh, like you missed it, you lost over it, blah, blah, blah. When that's not true, because I want to talk about it in the next episode. Also, let me know if you would have did what Jay-Z did when he was offered to take the president position to get his masters back. I'm not going to hold you much longer. Next episode will probably be the craziest, and I'm going to get the story from multiple angles. Biggs, Dame, Jay, State Property, Choke No Joke, Dipset, Memphis Bleek, etc. Love you guys. Peace.